Hello everyone, today I want to talk to you about a truly high IQ US senator. He claims that electromagnetic weapons can melt things. Indian soldiers. In addition, the New York Times says that the Sputnik moment for Chinese scholars has arrived. The New York Times reports that American universities, which are technological powerhouses, are self-destructing. The Trump administration is launching a major assault on American higher education by slashing tens of billions of dollars in federal funding for scientific and medical research. This has plunged the American academic community into an unprecedented crisis. World-class mathematician and Fields medalist Terence Tao. Recently, he published 4 lengthy articles angrily denouncing the United States. His team was suddenly cut off from funding by research funding agencies. He said that all research funding had been cut off and his team was starving and could hardly continue their research. On August 3rd, the US government suddenly suspended almost all federal grants, citing a racially biased research environment at the University of California, Los Angeles. Nearly 500 research projects were paralyzed. UCLA's Institute of Pure and Applied Mathematics, one of the 6 largest mathematics institutes in the world, was immediately dealt a fatal blow. Terence Tao, who is at the institute, said that their emergency funds could only sustain operations for a few months at most. If the ban is not lifted, this academic institution, which has shocked the world, will face the risk of closure. Harvard University humanities professor Greenblatt published an article in the New York Times on September 11th titled, "We are witnessing the self-destruction of a scientific superpower." He was referring to the United States. Greenblatt said that in October 1957, Americans learned that the Soviet Union had successfully launched the world's first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1. The overwhelming advantage of the Cold War opponent in rocket technology was clear evidence that the Soviet Union was ahead of the United States, which triggered a very swift response from the United States. In 1958, with bipartisan consensus, the US Congress voted and Presidents Eisen and Weir signed the National Defense Education Act, which is one of the most influential measures of federal government intervention in education in American history. This act, coupled with the establishment of the National Science Foundation and the National Institutes of Health, vigorously promoted American scientific research, ultimately making the United States the undisputed global leader in science and technology. Nearly 70 years later, how can the United States maintain this leading position? According to the latest Nature Index, which ranks research institutions by the number of papers they contribute to top academic journals, the only American institution in the top 10 is Harvard University, which ranks second. Harvard is ranked first and is far behind the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Other institutions are, in order, the University of Science and Technology of China, which ranks 3rd, Zhejiang University, which ranks 4th, Peking University, which ranks 6th, the University of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, which ranks 7th, Tsinghua University, which ranks 8th, Nanjing University, which ranks 9th, and the Max Planck Society of Germany, which ranks 10th. Only one American research institution is included, which is shocking. 10 years ago, the Chinese Academy of Sciences was the only Chinese institution in the top 10. Now 8 institutions are in the top 10. If this is not America's Sputnik moment, it is hard to imagine any strange event that can be considered as such. Greenblatt said that if the United States says, "The response to the Sputnik incident demonstrated a nation's resolve to unite and invest in science and its intellectual potential. Today, the United States is deeply divided and lost in its desire to confront China. Current American leaders, unconcerned with their political or economic ties, lack scientific consensus and are intent on weakening the research-focused universities that embody America's shared hopes for the future." Today's threats come from within the United States, and with rare exceptions, American university leaders have done little more than stand aside. Greenblatt says that from the 1962 National Defense Education Act, which vigorously promoted scientific development, to 1990, American universities had become global cultural benchmarks. Their academic breadth was enviable, and academic freedom was revered. Western students viewed them as the pinnacle of free exploration and academic prestige, flocking to them. While the US government did not deliberately create autonomous international temples of knowledge, its scale of investment and its relative isolation from direct political interference enabled American universities to develop the highest achievements of civilization. However, elite American universities, intoxicated by their success, began to sympathize with their ability to do more than simply impart knowledge and create new ideas. They yearned to heal the stubborn prejudices that plagued society. America is obsessed with the dream of repairing the damage of the present and promoting equality in the future, with little effort to convince the public that the new policies they are promoting are indeed beneficial. American higher education as a whole is now in a deep predicament. The Trump administration has launched pro-Palestinian social activities on most college campuses. It initially attacked Zhejiang University and accused it of being anti-right. Now, the reason for the attack has shifted to evaluating its affirmative action, diversity initiatives, liberal bias, and other issues. Scientific research has been cut, postdoctoral fellowships have been suddenly cancelled, laboratories have been closed, and student visas have been denied. The damage to the scientific enterprise has had a global impact, whether it is Health Secretary Robert Kennedy cancelling nearly $500 million in mRNA research funding or erasing global climate research. Americans will never know what diseases might be cured or what technological advances might emerge if the labs had received funding and the lights had stayed on. Several universities have been pressured to pay hefty government fines. Hopes are high that at least some federal funding will be restored, but there's no guarantee. The government is imposing strings attached to university life. Curriculum, settings, teaching arrangements, administration, and personnel appointments, all areas the National Defense Education Act prohibited government interference. Gallenberg believes that if the mainland government is satisfied with a one-time fine, universities threatened and deterred over the past few months might be able to recover. But if the authorities insist on reshaping the academic life and values of the illegitimate student community, it seems likely that this restoration will be, there's no way around it. Galen Bolat pessimistically asks why we should abandon the universities that truly make America great. Why squander the world's admiration for our brilliant achievements? Why jeopardize labs dedicated to curing cancer, perfecting medical treatments, exploring the mind, and testing the limits of artificial intelligence? This article can be summarized as follows. First, the tendency of American universities to change the world has become a strong demand from white leftists, which has tricked Trump, resulting in significant cuts to university funding. Interestingly, it is believed that this will not change during Trump's tenure. Second, China's technological rise is evident from the fact that 8 of the top 10 research institutions in the Nature Index are from China. This is indeed America's Sputnik moment, but Americans are immersed in political struggles and will not wake up. American politics. While some claim China copied American technology, others boasted that China's military technology was so advanced it was instilling fear. Meanwhile, the American mega group supported Trump's frequent calls to make America great again. Some, like the assassinated internet celebrity Charlie Oak, had a high intelligence quotient, yet their transformation was unimpeded. Others, however, seemed to have limited intelligence and were quite amusing in their conversations. On the 12th, mainstream Indian media outlets like the Hindustan Times and the Times of India were collectively stunned. They were all intensively reporting on the same bizarre news story. US senators were promoting the theory that Indian soldiers had been melted by Chinese television weapons, claiming they were suffering from dementia. This was because a day earlier, on September 10th, the US Senate Foreign Relations Committee held a confirmation hearing for the ambassador to India, a Republican from the Indian state of Wisconsin. When Senator William Haggerty was questioning, he said, "We've all seen images of Indian Prime Minister Modi standing together with leaders from China and other countries in Beijing. Many Americans are concerned about this." He then started to brag seriously about whether this tension meant that India was distancing itself from the United States. But I want to emphasize that there has long been distrust and resentment between China and India. Just 5 years ago, China and India clashed over border issues. Chinese soldiers did not shoot, but melted the Indian soldiers with electromagnetic weapons. Speaking of this, Haggerty also emphasized that the melting he mentioned was a literal melting. Zhang Dashi, Tan Mingren, and Gore not only did not refute it, but echoed it, saying that you are 100% right. They have far more in common with the United States than with China. He also claimed that it is unlikely that China and India will establish a closer relationship, and the relationship between the United States and India will be much warmer. At the same time, he also claimed that after taking office, he finally alienated the relationship between India and the BRICS countries. He said this as if he did not remember the United States. The US is imposing a 50% tariff on India. Senator Hargitay, who claimed that China had melted Indian soldiers, is a businessman and served as US ambassador to Japan during Trump's first presidency. His shocking remarks haven't sparked much discussion in American politics or the media, but Indian media following the hearing have been quite vocal. Indian media outlets have described Hargitay's remarks as bizarre and strange. Some Indian media outlets have also called Hargitay's remarks shocking. Some Indian media outlets have noted that Hargitay didn't provide specific details about his alleged Sino-Indian conflict, but given the timing, it likely refers to the June 2020 Kalman Valley clash. Sino-Indian relations took a sharp downturn after that incident, with only signs of recovery this year. As for Hargitay, why is he suddenly bringing up the old story and making a fuss about it 5 years later? Indian media bluntly stated that this is one of the actions by the United States to continuously try to sow chaos between China and India after both countries have worked to restore political relations. To sum up, first, China and India. During that conflict, in order to minimize casualties, both countries refrained from using weapons of mass destruction. It is said that they resorted to using medieval weapons like spiked clubs and shields. Right now, it's unclear whether China possesses electromagnetic weapons capable of melting people. But it's certain that such weapons were not used in that incident. Second, there is no such thing as politicians just saying whatever they want, and the US ambassador assigned to India also realized that it's unrealistic to expect agreement. Does US policy have high-level executors? Third, Trump's opponents behind the scenes might assassinate high-level supporters of Trump, internet celebrity Charlie Kirk, but they wouldn't assassinate those at a lower level. If there were more people like Senator Hagerty,